Past the Wire TV, your #1 source for horse racing news and interviews, handicapping analysis, betting insights, and more. Past the Wire TV covers the biggest races at the best tracks.
Garnet and Luis Saez to win the Belmonte Stakes at Saratoga. The Grey Wizard is absolutely flying. Champagne won. The Grey Wizard. Oh, it's very close. Leave it to the judge.
Like, share, and subscribe to Past the Wire TV. Nobody does it better.
Hey, Sure Bet Coffee. Put that giddy up in your cup. That giddy up in your cup. Sure Bet Coffee.
Tracking trips have passed the wire. There is no better time than now to join and ride with this clan. We'll be your second set of expert trained eyes. We ain't gonna buy you a fish. Sure, we'll give you some, but more importantly, we'll show you how to fish and make you a better. CAWs, sharks in the water, no problem. We'll go against anybody, and we have the track record to prove it. Big days, big pools, and select days all year long. We'll outplay them all. Looking for an ace? You're in the right place. Want to find that diamond? Be with us. Want to know more? Just ask a member or visit us at pastthewire.com and check out the Tracking Trips page. Nobody does it better.
You're watching Past the Wire TV.
Hey, what do you say to everybody? Gio Seti back at you today from the Seti compound, Past the Wire recording studio. I'm with you today to cover a deep dive for Saturday's Grade 2 fillies, 2-year-old fillies, Demoiselle Stakes. A race I look forward to capping every single year. You know, one of the things that's really important with all 2-year-old races, especially when you get a 2-year-old race for fillies late in the year, because obviously we're in December, and for the most part, they're approaching to be a 3-year-old. But you recognize a lot of behavioral movements in race replay. So even though obviously I have to dig down deep into the past performances, and of course I've done them early, meaning I don't even have access to the morning lines. I make the morning lines. But I did have the post positions. And this year's Demoiselle, we have a field of 10 fillies. Just wanted to note, because we are in the early December month, daylight is at a premium. So it's race 8 at Aqueduct on Saturday. Post time is 3:05 in the afternoon. And Saturday is a big day throughout the thoroughbred racing community, but especially at Aqueduct, because you have the Cigar Mile, and you have 2 other big stakes races, so 4 stakes on a day. And you'll see me on another show with the boys as we do a collective deep dive on the Cigar Mile. So back to the task at hand, the Grade 2 Demoiselle, nice field of fillies. It's a $250,000 Grade 2, and they're going 9 furlongs. So again, one of the things I look for is that natural, precocious behavior. How the fillies are looking in race review. Have they matured? Do they look athletic? Are they composed? Are they responding to urging from their riders? All those things make up my handicap, especially with developing fillies at the tail end of their 2-year-old campaign. All right? So we have a field of 10. In my opinion, 4 or 5 probably are realistic contenders. The others are likely to have more work to do, and I will go over that. So the way I'm going to do things today is let's take things from the rail to the bottom horse, all 10, and then at the end of it, you'll have a good idea based on what I'm sharing, but at the end of it, I will give you my precise order of finish for this very interesting race, because, each year, this particular race, not only does it provide points, but it is one of the stepping stones, if you will, towards the Kentucky Oaks, and we saw a good flavor of some fabulous 2-year-olds at the Breeders' Cup. This just adds to it because it is, I would classify it as a prep race towards the Kentucky Oaks in 2025. All right, let's get started, okay? Number 1 is Mullikan. Mullikan is one of the few in the race that have had a flair of the dramatic. Nice looking gray gal. 2 races have been very impressive out of the Brad Cox stable. Now, Brad Cox also has a very, very imposing filly named Immersive, who's a Breeders' Cup champ and a 3-time Grade 1 winner. So this gal just adds to the Brad Cox stable. So it's a $700,000 daughter of Munnings out of a Tappert mare. So I don't really have any reservations about the distance. Stretching out, of course, she has run 2 sprints, 6.5 and 7 furlongs, both at Churchill Downs. And just take a note, you probably see this in your form, but talking about support at the window, this gal has been 4-5 and 1-5. So much regard, much anticipation going into this race, stretching out. Nice looking gray, looked professional, seemed very composed in both stretch runs, drew off clean, and obviously, in my opinion, will be the favorite in this race. I don't have access to the morning line, but I would recognize her as a morning line favorite, somewhere in the area of 7-5. We'll get into how I feel others will contend in the race, but she definitely looks to be a handful, okay? So keep that in mind as we go forward. The 2 is Lay 'em in the Dust. I kind of love the name. Instead of Leave 'em in the Dust, it's Lay 'em in the Dust. Gorgeous, nice looking horse. A lot of these fillies were really, well developed when I checked them out in race review. Maybe all of them, but 1 or 2. So Lay 'em in the Dust, 4 races in Kentucky, Ellis Park, Churchill, Keeneland. The campaign's been pretty good. I will want to add a couple of things about this horse, all right? First things first, a lot of respect for the connections. Flavian Pratt is up for Rudy Brisset. Rudy Brisset's had a solid year. His barn is hot, and they know what they're doing. So much respect for the connections, and you get value. Second time Pratt with this horse. I went deep into the second start. This horse's second start, the Grade 3 Pocahontas, all right? She broke from the 14 hole. Now, going that distance of a mile at Churchill, you come out of the chute, and I just feel the horse was sharp out of the chute onto the main track, and then was really imposing going into the far turn. Got the lead, looked like she was going to run through, but she lost the lead. Still looked professional, worked hard. Then in the next race, the Grade 1, over at Keeneland, eased, rough trip, faced tougher horses. Immersive ended up winning that race, but I put a line through that race because the horse just wasn't right that day. And then the next start, clearly she was second best to Mullikan. So right off the bat, she's going to have to turn the tables on the 1, which is not likely in this spot. but she is improving. I think she will go forward. The 3 is Fortuna Mia. Fortuna Mia, if you look it up, I like to look things up. I'm one of those Italians that embraces all the sayings. Means my fortune or my luck. All right? So Eric Cancel's up for Linda Rice. Let me make sure of that. Yep. This gal has made a few strong moves. All right? So I kind of like that. Excuse me a second. I got to have my coffee in the morning. So when you watch this filly and race review, she responds well when asked. So she has that acceleration, that strong move that you'd like to see. I think she'll improve. It is her second race off a layoff. Do I think she's good enough to win here? Probably not. I'm going to use her mostly in my deeper gimmicks, certainly my bottom superfectas and all. But I like the filly. I think she's got some giddy up in her, and it may take a few more races for her to fly her best. The 4 is Carmen's Candy Jar. Now, very interesting here. This is a New York bred, Todd Pletcher, Mike Rapoli stables, and you get IRAD. So you got that combination. So by default, the board's probably going to be hot. However, when I dug into this gal, all right, 5 races in, it's the daughter of Vino Rosso. I don't really have any questions about her making the distance of 9 furlongs. So Vino Rosso was a strong horse who won the Breeders' Cup Classic. And, excuse me, and she's out of an Uncle Mo mare. Hold on the board in the last 2 races. That was sort of perplexing. I asked myself, if you look at the body of work that this gal has taken, began her career with a win over the same soil at Aqueduct, went to Saratoga, sort of disappointed, was an open company in Schuylerville, then ran in several state-bred races where I felt her best could have been the difference. And for some reason, she just didn't have it in the stretch. She was in a position to win. She had IRAD, but she just didn't fire her best. So perplexing. But I do feel this talent there. So now Todd, and he's done this a lot of time. Pletcher goes to blinkers. Blinkers on for this race. I do list her as a contender in this field. Ambitiously entered in a grade 2 event, open company. I don't feel this horse has fired her best yet. You always have to be intrigued with IRAD for Rapoli and Pletcher. One thing that's important here, obviously, we all would love an overlay. We would love to have a robust square price on a board. But this is one horse in the race. There's an indication. You'll know if the horse is not only how she looks in the paddock, but how much interest is showing at the window. By default, there will be interest, but you know what I'm saying. If this horse is hot on the board after being very cold in the last 2, that's an indication, and keep that in mind. I know I am. Let's move on to the 5. Michelle. Michelle is the daughter of 2007 Kentucky Derby winner Street Sense out of a Ghost Zapper mare. Very, very happy to see that Katie Davis, who I admire greatly and who's an up-and-coming rider, she is getting an opportunity to ride in the Grade 2 stakes for none other than Brittany Russell. So I like seeing that. I really do. This gal looked impressive winning her debut at Laurel albeit in a small field. She was ridden out confidently. Now she's stretching out, and I do feel she's built for the distance. However, lacks the needed experience. Was she impressive in race review? Absolutely. Does she have the pedigree that suggests that she'll make the distance? Yeah. I like Katie Davis, but to be confident about this gal winning a race like this in her second start, she needs to improve dramatically. But I do like the fact that they're ambitiously entering her in this race. All right, that's the 5, Michelle. Just Michelle. I like that horses are named, Tom, Joe, or Michelle. It's pretty cool, right? All right, so number 6. Coffee's getting to me. Let me have another sip. I love you guys. Thanks for being with me. The number 6 is Bless This Broken. Bless This Broken. Blinkers off for the William Walden stable. Began her career and debut at Evangeline Downs. Watch that race. It's pretty cool. Easy winner after an early duel in a 4.5 furlong sprint. She ran off, won by open lengths. She took big money in her second start at Keeneland, which I felt was very interesting. A horse debuting at Evangeline Downs, wins big, and then go in second start months later off a layoff. She's 3-1, 3.5 to 1 over at Keeneland in the optional claimer for $100,000. Greatly disappointed. Wasn't really looking confident on the track that day. Rough trip, disappointed. But if you look at her in her last, the race coming into this, at Churchill Downs, all right? And interestingly enough, blinkers are off now. She didn't wear blinkers in debut, and now they're coming off with the blinkers after the last 2 races. This gal looks strong in a stretch in her last. So I feel she will handle the distance, and I don't know if she's a hardcore contender in this race, but I'm going to use her on some of my tickets in my deeper exotics because I feel that she's going to relish with the added distance, and I like the way she looked in her last. I really did. The 7, let me turn the page, is 5 Aside. I'll keep it brief with this gal. I do feel it's intriguing that Joao Rosario is up here for John's service. I do not feel entirely confident that she's built for the distance. She is facing much more accomplished, tougher fillies. Can she move forward? Yeah. If she does move forward, can she get a small share of this? Perhaps. But others, to me, are just more appealing. I do like the switch to Rosario. Remember, Rosario is one of those gritty, strong-arm jockeys that can get a lot out of a horse in the stretch. But you got to be decisive, and others is just more appealing to me. So I'm going to take a look at her over the track on race day. Number 8, Beauty Reigns, happens to be the race wild card. Now, why am I saying she's the wild card? Well, Alvarado up for Belmonte. One thing, this is an Into Mischief. An Into Mischief out of a Tappet mare again. Nice looking gal. 1 race, Aqueduct, returning to the scene of her debut win. She drifted some, but she kept to the task at hand. Again, I'd like to see more experience, but she was game then. So the question is, how good is she? We don't know. Was I impressed in race review? Absolutely. She's got the win over the track, working well. Basically, they're coming back a month later and going from a maiden special debut into a grade 2. So that's what I'm saying. Beauty Reigns, no doubt, is the wild card. Does she need more seasoning? No doubt ambitiously entered in this grade 2 event, just like the number 5, Michelle. But I do feel not only are the connections, the pedigree, and, all other contributing factors more of a inviting proposition than Michelle, because first race buyer 73 against Michelle, first race buyer 56. So clearly the race wild card. I will explain how I'm going to use her at the end of my deep dive. So let's move on. But no doubt she looks like a promising filly. The 9 tip line, I'll be rather brief with this gal. Nice works for the race. Began her career at Parks, raced at Aqueduct, but she disappointed greatly in that race, was cold on the board. She was beaten soundly by Fortuna Mia, who's in this race. They put blinkers on, but clearly, in my opinion, tip line, the 9 is an outsider. Now let's go to the bottom horse, to 10, where I have a lot to say about, because this is a potential upsetter in the race. And let's start now. So the 10, Ballerina d'Oro. Ballerina d'Oro. $320,000 yearling purchase out of a Tappet mare. Another beautiful, strong-looking gray. This race has some beautiful grays. I actually said in my head, there's a possibility that the grays in this race could run 1, 2, 3. So nice-looking gray. Let me just add another note here. Second time Dylan Davis in the second race at Kentucky Downs, going a mile. You should watch this. Interestingly enough, think about this. So she debuts at Saratoga on a lawn. Remember, this horse, 3 races, all going a distance, all on a lawn. So coming off the turf, making her debut on a dirt track. But what's really intriguing here is you watch that second race of her career, Kentucky Downs. Horse ran huge, Classic close by Irad Ortiz in the saddle. Looked professional, looked athletic, looked powerful. Now gets blinkers. Failed in her last. No doubt. Now remember, that was a couple races back. But from that race at Kentucky Downs, she entered in a strong grade 2 field at Keeneland. Didn't have a good trip. I just felt like the horse needed a little more seasoning. I don't really like horses who run big at Kentucky Downs with a big effort. Now, usually if you could do that there at that quirky surface, then you're going to do well elsewhere. But in that next race at Keeneland, it just seemed like she was overmatched. And since then, additional seasoning, laid off since October 4th. So now you're looking at a full 2 months. The workout tab is not sensational, but it's not slow. To me, it's adequate. I feel this filly is a major contender in this race. Chad Brown, Dylan Davis, listen, you have to respect what Chad's doing here. Think about it. With so many other options, or keeping the horse on the turf, you got Chad Brown saying, you know what? Yeah, the grade 2 Demoiselle. This is the spot. Obviously, Dylan Davis knows the oval at Aqueduct. Major contender. So keep those things in mind. Let me give you my full, precise order of finish. So what I want to call an absolute upset, almost did. I'm going to say the top two contenders in this race are Mohima the 1 and the 10, Ballerina d'Oro. Now, I like to separate the percentages. If I had to do that, I'm going to say 70-30%, 70%, 30. So in my multiples, I'm probably going to go 3 deep because I have a wild card in this race. I told you about the wild card, and I'm not going to get beat by the wild card, and the wild card is the 8. Make sure it is the 8. Oh, I'm skipping a page. Beauty Reigns. All right. So if I was going to give you a precise order of finish, it's 1, 10, 8, 4, 2, 3, 6. That's a long stretch of a precise order, right? But that's how I see it. I have great respect for Brad Cox's horse. She really looks like a handful, and she's going to be bet strong at the window. But if a horse is going to beat the 1, it's going to be the 10 or the 8. The 4, Carmen's Candy Jar, what I read, remember what I told you, watch the board. It's going to be very telling. You know, especially because that horse was cold, uncharacteristically cold on the board in the last 2. So there you have it. The grade 2 Demoiselle, Mr. Setti. I will be back on a show with the boys covering the Clark, not the Clark, more coffee. Of course, I mean the Cigar Mile. Clark was last week. Did very well with that too. Cigar Mile, lots more. I've been working feverishly all week. Race review, digging down deep with my past performances. I got some other stuff coming to you guys that I'll share. Setti Better Days on Twitter X. Stay tuned, and let's go get 'em.
Tracking trips that pass the wire, your second set of eyes in horse racing.
Solomini,
Be a
a
member.
top 10 first crop sire in 2023, standing at McMahon of Saratoga. 14 first crop winners, including My Shady Lady, winner of the $500,000 New York Stallion Series 5th Avenue Stakes, Grade 2 winner, Winstock, and Stakes winner, Solo Shot. Solomini, the 7th leading freshman sire and the only top 10 freshman sire with a Grade 1 or Grade 2 winner. He sired a $700,000 2-year-old at the OBS April sale. His juveniles sold for nearly 6 figures on average, more than 12 times the stud fee. Solomini, a controversial DQ from being a Grade 1 winner by 2-time Horse of the Year Curlin, standing at McMahon of Saratoga Thoroughbreds.
Breed the best, and hope for the best.
Makoma broke well on the outside.
But you don't expect to get speed like this.
It is Makoma, the one to catch. Makoma has a 5-length lead in this Grade 1 corner. Outside, Makoma continues the battle on down at the rail. It is Makoma who's going to win the Met Mile.
Nobody does it better.